Welcome back to Book Break and welcome to another virtual book haul. This is our July book haul and I have just been sent a very exciting email which I have here unopened in front of me. It contains information of some of the most brilliant books we have published in the month of July. So get your pen and paper ready, you're going to want to add a lot of these to your shopping list. The first book in here is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. Okay, so this is the paperback cover, which looks really different. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm sure you've already heard so much about this book. It has been raved about all over BookTube, and it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. So this is a Greek myth retelling. It retells the story of the Trojan War, but from loads of different perspectives. From the perspectives of all of the women involved. From the goddesses, to the princesses, to the slave girls. So many different voices. I loved this book so much. It's so much fun. I went on a complete Greek myth retelling binge last year and we actually made a video with our recommendations of the best in this genre, which I will link to so you can click through and have a watch. But this is just one of the best. It's so much fun seeing women being put back front and centre in these stories because they actually play such an important part in the original stories. So yeah, absolutely loved this. Okay, next is Dance Prone by David Coventry. Okay, this is one that I really want to read. This one sounds like a kind of literary 80s version of Daisy Jones and the Six. So it's about two members of this 80s indie band and we follow them on their 1985 tour on which two significant and really terrible things happened and flash back and forth to the present and see the consequences of what happened and how it's affected them all those years later. Just sounds brilliant, I think, and the author David Coventry is passionate about the kind of 80s post-punk indie rock scenes, so it's very much filled with his love for the music. The Sun Sister by Lucinda Riley. Okay, so this series is so popular and this is book number, I've lost count. Okay, so this is book number 6 in the Seven Sisters series and each book so far has followed a different sister and all of these girls are the adopted daughters of this elusive billionaire called Pa Salt. So there's this mystery that runs throughout all of the books and you better catch up quickly because there's only one left. A Minute to Midnight by David Baldacci. Okay, so this is the second in the Atlee Pine series. So Atlee Pine is a special agent who, when she was about 6 years old, her twin sister was kidnapped from the room that I think they were both sleeping in. So Atlee has been haunted by this ever since, and that's why she now has a job in which she dedicates her life to catching those who hurt others, and it seems like all of these cases she's taking on are connected in some way to her own mystery from her past. Okay, next we have a Michelle Frances, the new Michelle Frances. This is Sisters. So this is on all of our summer reading lists. Michelle Frances is just the queen of summer psychological thrillers. They're so much fun. This one, the tagline on the front here says, one's the favourite and the other knows it. So it's about these two sisters who really don't get along, but one summer, one of them invites the other to come and stay in her luxury Italian villa, and their mother comes as well. And they're hoping it'll be a chance for them all to bond, but of course all of the old tensions are still there. And then something shocking is going to happen on this trip, and suddenly the sisters are forced to rely on each other despite not really trusting each other at all. Okay, what's next? Gotta get through this. This is the Louis Theroux memoir, My Life and Strange Times in Television. I love Louis Theroux so much, he's so funny. We've actually done quite a few videos with him, which I will link to if you want to watch, including one where he interviews himself, which is just brilliant. So, as you can imagine, this book is very funny and very interesting. Sex, Robots and Vegan Meat by Jenny Kleeman. Okay, I am so desperate to get my hands on this. I mean, just the title alone, how brilliant is that? So this is Adventures at the Frontier of Birth, Food, Sex and Death. So this is a non-fiction book where Jenny Kleeman has picked 4 really interesting developments in technology. So she has interviewed a sex robot, she's eaten a lab-grown vegan chicken nugget, she's seen how fetuses can be grown in plastic bags, and she's gone to these members-only meetings where members discuss and plan how to have the perfect death. So it's these 4 massive areas of life that seem so intrinsic to what it means to be human, but that are massively changing beyond our understanding. Oh, this looks creepy. Find Them Dead by Peter James. 1 word, she dies. 2 words, she lives. Terrifying. and that cover is so creepy with that shadow seen through the window. I don't know what this one is about, so I'm going to have a quick read. So this is the 16th book in the Roy Grace series, and in this one Roy Grace gets a tip-off about a drugs mastermind operating out of Brighton and ends up unearthing a powerful criminal network. Sounds fantastic. Okay. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is Palace of Palms. So this is the one that's all about Kew Gardens. So this is a non-fiction book about the building of the Palm House at Kew Gardens, which was opened in 1848 and is still just one of the most beautiful glass buildings in the world, and has such an extraordinary story of how and why it was built in the first place and the Victorians' obsession with the palms that filled it. Such a niche topic, but those are always the most fun non-fiction books, I think. Then we have The Hidden Beach by Karen Swan. Just from looking at that cover, this is such a summer read. A family secret, a summer that could save them. I'm already just lost in staring at that cover, but let's see what the book's actually about. Oh my goodness, that synopsis is amazing. So this one is set in Stockholm, and it's about a woman who works as a nanny for a really rich family. She's worked for them for 2 years. And one morning, as she's rushing out to take the children to school, she gets a phone call letting her know that Hannah, the woman that she works for, that Hannah's husband is awake. And Belle, our main character, has no idea what this means because she was just with Max this morning, the man that she thinks is Hannah's husband. It turns out that Hannah has a husband who fell into a coma 7 years earlier and has just woken up. Then we have Exhalation by Ted Chiang. I love this cover so much. I actually talked about this. We recently did a video where we compared UK covers to US covers, and this was one of the covers that we looked at. It's just so gorgeous. So this is a collection of short stories. I haven't read these, but I'm desperate to. I actually own Ted Chiang's other short story collection, which I'm planning to read any minute now, and that contains the short story that was the inspiration for the movie Arrival. So he basically writes these really thoughtful, human sci-fi stories, and I've just heard nothing but praise about him. Alright, this is such a good haul so far. I want basically everything. And then there's The Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. I have read this one. This is such a brilliant feminist historical fiction book. I actually recommended it in our video that we did all about feminist historical fiction books, so I will link to that so you can browse through loads more good titles. But this one is set in a kind of alternative Tudor Britain. And it's kind of this conspiracy thriller. So our main character is a girl who is sentenced to become a sin eater, which is a punishment in which, as well as having to consume ritual foods on people's deathbeds to help them get into heaven, she also is forbidden from speaking or being spoken to. So when she discovers this weird conspiracy going on in the royal family, she has to try and solve the mystery without speaking to anyone. So it's so gripping and tense and just so much fun. Next up, Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. This is a new Macmillan Collector's Library edition. I love this book so much. It's honestly just still one of the funniest books that I've ever read, about 3 men and a dog who go on a boating journey down the Thames and just get into all sorts of ridiculous adventures. It's brilliant. And I'm hoping there'll be another MCL next. There usually are at least 2. Lark Rise to Candleford by Flora Thompson. Do you know, I don't know anything about this book. Okay, so this is actually a trilogy, but all 3 books together in this volume, about a girl called Laura growing up in the English countryside between the wars. So it's all about this farming community and about nature and about England being redefined at that time. I didn't know anything about that, but it sounds great. Ah, and another MCL, Anne of Avonlea by Ella Montgomery. So this is the next in the Anne of Green Gables series. I only read Anne of Green Gables. I don't think I went any further on in the series, but I really want to now. So these are these Canadian books that came out in the early 1900s, all about a young orphan called Anne who is sent to live with this couple who don't originally want her because they wanted a boy, but she will do, and it's about her struggling to fit in and getting into all sorts of scrapes and also really hating her bright red hair and freckles. And I just absolutely loved that first book when I was younger, and Anne of Avonlea is the sequel. I think she's about 16 or 18 in this one. I'm not sure, but I will find out when I pick this up and read it. But there's still more. Oh, If I Can't Have You by Charlotte Levin. This is another one that I have read and really enjoyed. So this is a thriller drama about a woman who becomes completely obsessed with a man that she meets through work. They have a bit of a fling and then she becomes obsessed with him. But it's so much more interesting than just the kind of crazy ex-girlfriend storyline. He is absolutely awful, so you hate him and side with her for so far through the story, even as her behaviour gets more and more obsessive and dangerous. But she feels like this really real character. I just loved it. Page turner. Okay, so this one is Blue in Chicago by Betty Howland. So this is a short story collection, but Betty Howland is really interesting because in the 80s she was hailed as this kind of literary genius, and then she pretty much vanished from the public eye. So this is now bringing new life to these forgotten stories. And then this looks like the last one. Oh, that beautiful cover. This is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I actually have my copy right here. Here it is, isn't it gorgeous? I haven't read it yet, but I am so excited to. So this feels like a very appropriate read right now in that it's set in a pandemic, but this one is set in the 1918 Great Flu. So this is set in a hospital in Dublin on a maternity ward where pregnant mothers who've come down with this flu are being quarantined together, which sounds like an absolutely terrifying situation, but this is about one doctor, a nurse and a volunteer on this ward and the amazing difference that they make. It's all about hope in the darkness. I actually think that was our best haul yet. I really want all of the books on that list. So do leave us a comment letting us know which one you're the most excited about, and I will link our playlist here of all of our book hauls so you can browse through all of the exciting books we've been publishing recently. And we'll see you next time!